Hello there, my beautiful pumpkins, and welcome back to the Pumpkin Patch. If you are new here, hello, my name is Kloee Taylor, and on this channel, I believe that we have one of the most cozy, autumnal, vibey corners of the internet. So if you like the way that I read, you like my style, and you're excited for our descent into the autumn time, be sure to hit that subscribe button and become a member of the Pumpkin Patch to get new videos from me in your inbox every single week. And today, y'all, I am so excited to do this reading because I know a lot of my readings are very like long form content where sometimes they're up to like 35 minutes per reading. And some of y'all busy girlies, the girls, the gays, the theys, don't have time to be listening to 35 minutes. And I also feel like it's really important to kind of mix content up. So I really wanted this reading to be one that is a little bit shorter. So we're doing a little bit less cards, but I have sat with each of your piles and they actually correspond to a symbol, which we'll talk about in a moment. I did actually sit with each of your piles, bring in the intention of what you really need to hear right now, especially if you're dealing with something. We're going to kind of look at that, what to do about it, and then receive some gentle guidance with it. Y'all know that gentle guidance is one of my specialties on this channel. It is what I enjoy doing honestly the most. I think we all could use a little bit more gentleness in our life, and that self-love and self-compassion really can go a long way. So that's ultimately what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be using 3 different decks to achieve this. I will link them all down below for you. Now, as for the symbols, we'll go ahead and put them on the screen. So number 1, your cards that I will be showing to you in a moment are going to correspond to the first symbol. Number 2, you're going to correspond to the second symbol. And number 3, you're going to correspond to the third symbol. So I will give you some time to look at these symbols. Maybe you saw from the thumbnail that this was really this was really it. This was your symbol. Maybe you need some time to sit with them in meditation. So I want to give you that opportunity to do that. So I'm just going to give you about a minute or so. You can pause the video if you need more time. Please know that you're never going to choose wrong and it's okay to choose more than one. And I'm going to go ahead and quiet up and give you some time to sit with these. All right, pile number 1. So the first card we have for you is this reflection card. And let me actually show it to you because they do change. We have more than just this one card as well. I'm actually going to start by reading this card out of the book for you, just because I really love the description of this one. The cards from this deck are just truly masterpieces, and Threads of Fate really slapped with this one. Capitalism really popped off with this one. But we're going to go ahead and read from the book to start out. And I think it's really funny that your symbol actually was a mirror and you literally got the reflection card because I didn't plan that ahead of time. So fascinating. But we're going to go ahead and just kind of see what you're dealing with right now. So we have, once we see, we can't unsee. And those of us who have had that first taste of seeing ourselves and not shrinking in fear enter into a marriage with the work. It becomes that which we see life through. It's not easy, which is why so few do it. We shed and we shed and we shed. And then we realize it will never stop shedding. We realize we will never stop shedding. We fall in love with this maze, the place we call home, because if there is one thing that truly belongs to us, this is it. To traverse this landscape within us is to be a collector. We collect the memories of moments and traumas, signs, and questions. Before we awake, we spend our lives ignoring that which lies below the surface, the ugly we want to edit, the truth we want to pretend doesn't exist. We don't want to explore because we know we will be forced to change. When we finally take the plunge, we start looking for something. Everything. Every little thing is significant. Eventually, we hope to land in a place of balance. Ooh, I have the chills. When we can enter into reflection and inquiry when needed and enjoy our life without overanalyzing the rest of the time. Each time we loop around the maze, we fall more in love with the process. It stops being a chore we begrudgingly do. We start seeing the beauty in meeting with our pain, of cleaning out our wounds, stitching them up, and keeping the gift they offer us. Reflection is carrying this medicine we've made within us. We get to wear these hard-earned talismans. They become invisible ink on our skin, armoring us up for our future knowing. We can now do things differently. Reflection asks you to balance in this process. Love it more if that's needed. Go easier on yourself if it's overwhelming for you. Life is hard, painful, and heavy, but it's also a game. Don't take it so seriously. So this is really interesting because number one, you chose the mirror, which is literally like, what is the mirror but your reflection, right? And you got the card as your main significator of reflection. Maybe you have really been sitting in the deep work, doing the most, doing a lot, and maybe you feel like you're kind of coming at yourself from every single angle in life right now. And I don't think this is a bad thing. Spirit is honestly really trying to convey to you that you're in the deep work, you're doing the most. And this is not a bad thing. You're doing a great thing, but it's hard. It's hard work. And something I want to or I'm feeling really compelled to share without going into too much detail because it is personal and involves my own personal relationship. But many of you really appreciate when I share personal accounts because it helps you to understand. When we talk about doing the work, it's not just, I'm going to write out some journal prompts and now I'm going to feel better. Sometimes we have to have firsthand personal accounts to get better. And a perfect example of this in my own life, I had my shadow pop up in the most painful way recently, within the last week. And those of you that are on my Patreon, you know that the weekly energies, we've kind of been starting off in a lot of struggle, but ending on a high. And the last 2 or 3 weeks have been like this. It's kind of been an up and a down. But this week, I was playing games with one of my very close, near and dear, one of my best friends. And I could tell that they were in a mood and they were really they just felt some type of way. And my past self, my younger self, because I was parentified really early by my own mother, I felt like I had to cater to those feelings immediately. She didn't ask me to do that. I felt like it was up to me to sit there and ask what was wrong, insist that something was wrong, even when they told me that it was okay. She told me it was okay. And you could tell that she didn't really want to talk about it. I continued to insist. And not really realizing that that is a form of toxic behavior. When somebody tells you that everything's okay, it's not your job to keep digging. And I know in today's world, that's actually something that is constantly shown to us through even movies and stuff. When somebody says I'm fine, they're never fine. You need to keep digging. It's up to you to go after them and rescue them. And this was a pattern that I hadn't seen crop up for me in many, many, many years because I just hadn't been faced with it. And then I started to internalize it and I thought I had done something wrong. I started to feel like my friend was angry with me. And ultimately I was being kind of annoying. So yeah, they maybe were kind of upset with me, but then it turned into this thing. Like it went on for over a day, and I started to get really emotional and in my feelings about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've done something wrong. Surely they're mad at me now. And like having full blown meltdown because I felt like I had done something to make my friend angry at me. And this is also classic like social anxiety behavior too, which I have dealt with in the past, but I feel like I've really worked hard to overcome. But this is what I mean by the work. Like a pattern like this might seem like something so simple and so small, and even though I've done a ton of work on myself and my own social anxiety, and I feel like I've overcome so much of it, it still crops up sometimes. And coming from a household where a lot of anger was like unbridled anger, I don't always know how to handle anger. And lo and behold, the whole situation blew over. Everything ended up being okay. They were kind of annoyed with me because I kept digging. And in reality, they just wanted to hang out and play games and try to forget about what was going on instead of talk about it, where I just kept insisting we needed to talk about it because I'm the space holder and that's what I do. And it actually ended up being a really big healing moment for me to realize, like, oh, it's not always my job to try to fix everybody's problems. So this was like a big reflection for me. And the reason I'm bringing this up to you is like sometimes things that we think we've dealt with come back up. That's part of the work. And honestly, going through that experience, it was very intense in the moment. I felt a lot of my past feelings that were really hard to deal with, feeling like everything was out of control and everything was my fault. Once we actually talked it over, I was like, wow, I see how I do this in my relationships now. Even in my like romantic partnership, I see how I do this. And that really sucks. And I don't want to perpetuate this kind of behavior. So it just honestly was such a big learning experience that I feel like it honestly kind of let me off the hook to not be so focused all the time on everybody else's feelings. Not that that's a bad thing to, care about other people, but sometimes we can overdo it, right? Especially if you're highly empathic or highly sensitive. But with reflection, it's okay if you have to keep reflecting on the same thing. It's, you don't have to just fix one thing about yourself and then suddenly that problem is going to go away and never come back again. That's often not how the work actually works. So there's that. Then we have for you, I wanted these next two cards to resemble kind of how to work through this difficult time of reflection. So we have the Eight of Wands for you. And then we also have the Queen of Pentacles, which I feel like in terms of working through these things for yourself, I honestly feel like these are some really incredible cards. Number one, you need to stop dividing your attention. You're trying to do too many things at once. This is like, oh, I'm trying to be on a good sleep schedule. I'm trying to eat well. I'm trying to keep all my household work done, my career work done, and also do all of this deep integrative shadow work and also be everybody's best friend and be a good daughter or a good son or, a good family member or a good significant other. And it's like, you're just dividing yourself so much instead of actually working on one thing at a time. If you're somebody that struggles with a lot of balance, which the reflection card talks about that, if you're struggling with a lot of balance, it's because you're dividing yourself up towards too many different things. And Spirit is actually saying, maybe narrow the scope a little bit. Focus on one area that you'd really like to improve in. Like, if I could give you a great example of this, in my own life, I struggle with sleep. I struggle with sleep. I don't have insomnia. I swear my circadian rhythm is just like off. Or yeah, circadian rhythm. It's just like off by like my day and night cycles are just kind of flopped. And it's been this way for so long that it's hard to change. But instead of just working on having a good nighttime routine to wind down and starting there, that's the difference between, okay, I'm going to start by just giving myself like a nice little 15-minute nighttime routine, right? That's going to help me descend into bed at a good time. It's like trying to do that, but also quitting coffee at the same time. And like, that's just too much sometimes. Maybe you just work on the nighttime routine, and when you feel like you have your bearings on that, you can start to cut down on the caffeine consumption. Now, that might not be the thing that you want to work on. That was just an example, but stop dividing yourself. It's causing more turmoil. And then with the Queen of Pentacles, this says you just need to give yourself some real nice self-care. We love the Queen of Pentacles when it comes to reflection. Be nice to yourself. The Queen of Pentacles is very nice to herself. She gets the bag, but she also really gives back to herself with all that she does and all that she has earned. You are so much farther along than you even recognize. I really want you to look back on your life from like a year ago and then look at it now and see where the difference is. I guarantee you that you've grown. Now, for a gentle message to close this reading out, we have 3 cards for you from the Rose Oracle, which is one of my favorite decks of all time. It's one that just gives such beautiful, gentle messaging. And I love the cards that you got. So we have for you the Bloom, which this card says creations, realizations, right time, harvest, and celebrate. So this is all about knowing that like right now you're in this reflection mode, and that's okay. It's okay to be where you are right now. The celebration is coming. The opportunities are coming. Feeling like something new is blossoming is coming. Instead of just trying to stress it constantly, know that it is already coming your way, and that like a fresh start and a fresh change is coming to you. Because even if we think about the way that a rose blooms, it has to be the closed bud before it can bloom. And right now you're in that closed bud state, but the bloom is coming. Then we have After the Rain, one of my personal favorite cards from this deck. It says silver lining, relief, hope, mercy, it's over, acceptance. So number 1, this is here just to tell you that the hardest part of what you've been experiencing is over. And what a beautiful message to receive, especially if you've really been struggling. The hardest part is actually over already. And let yourself cry. Some of you, maybe if you've been holding it in, let yourself cry, because tears are actually so healing. It is one of the few ways that our body releases cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So let yourself cry. I know that in today's world, maybe some of you are really good about it and you let yourself cry already, but I guarantee you that there's somebody here that holds it back and has a lot of shame in crying because they've been conditioned to believe that way. And if that's you, please let yourself cry. It is so healing and so therapeutic. It's not weak. There is nothing wrong with letting it out. And tears, because they release cortisol, so they literally release the stress in your body. And number 2, after you cry, usually comes a feeling of relief. So let yourself have that relief, and just accept that the hardest part is over. You've been through a lot and the hard part is over. You can now be open to tenderness, acceptance, and healing, and hope for a brighter future. And then we also have for you Trust the Season, embracing change, cycles of life, transition, and growth. So what this says to me is kind of in tandem with the Bloom. Trust the timing that you came in on right now. Trust that things are going to shift and change, that you are in a cycle right now, but what goes down has to come back up, right? We are always in a continuous cycle. And it's okay to transform and grow through this. I actually just had a conversation with my spouse like last week where I was crying and I was like, my gosh, you know what I hate about the human existence? I hate that I've been through all this shit and it's not going to stop. Like, just because I went through this really hard thing doesn't mean that I'm never going to experience hardship again in my life. In fact, this is not like a get out of jail free card. I literally am going to continue to experience hardship. Now, that's not going to be my entire life, right? I'm going to experience highs and lows, but the things that I've been through over the last year during my Saturn return have been the hardest. And I know that harder days will still come, and that sucks. But remember that also good days are going to come. Also, joyful moments are going to happen. Happiness is going to return again. And right now, you've maybe been in a very reflective internal season, but the bloom is coming. And Spirit wants you to keep that and know that, and to recognize that your life isn't meant to just be doom and gloom and always doing the work and always analyzing and always focused. Just like in my last reading, if y'all got that pile, healing is not your purpose. And I would encourage y'all to listen to that song if you haven't. It was my last reading that went out. It's like in the description for that reading. But healing is not your purpose. Your purpose is literally to just enjoy life. And it's like a really great affirmation track if you want to listen to it. But that is what I have for you, symbol/pile number 1. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the little bit of a shorter style of reading. Please do not forget, when you stand on your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. Don't forget to check out the Patreon if you would like exclusive access to readings, a book club. We're doing new moon manifesting on the new moon this month together as a group on like Zoom. I'm very excited. So definitely join in if you want to be a part of that. You get weekly energy updates as well as bonus tarot card readings that you can't get anywhere else except for there. And if you join, you also unlock 235 plus posts that I have put out on Patreon over the last year. So, honestly, my Patreon, not small potatoes. There is a ton of content that we have built up over the last year and a quarter, year and a third. We've built up so much content there. So definitely join in. I genuinely feel like it's worth it. And if you'd like to book a personalized reading with me, I do have those available at KloeTaylor.com. I will never solicit you on social media. If you ever see somebody sliding into your DMs, that is a scammer. It's not my account. I am at Kloee Taylor. Literally, I have the official handle that's at Kloee Taylor. No underscores, no extra letters, none of that. So if you ever see that, know that it's not my account. I only have one account, and that is it. And I'm available everywhere. So TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, follow me everywhere. And if you haven't done so, the Discord, it's open, it's free, and it's literally our community just hanging out in chat all the time. So Discord link is down below. And last but certainly not least, if you would like even more content in your life, I have a podcast, Divine Authenticity, where literally I just sit down and chat at your ears for some ridiculous amount of time. So do come and check it out. It's a good time if you enjoy my voice and you want to hear more musings and more ramblings. It's probably one of the best sources for that. So it's available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, literally anywhere you listen to podcasts, it's available. Divine Authenticity, links down below. And I will talk to you in the next one, pumpkin. Bye. All right, pile number 2. So the card that we're going to start with is actually one from the Threads of Fate Empyrean deck, and you got the card of Wilderness. Let me actually bring this up here and really give you a good look at it. So it does change, but because that is how these cards are done. But you got the card of Wilderness, and I think that's also really funny that, kind of like pile number 1, I didn't plan those symbols prior to looking at these cards. And just like pile number 1, y'all also have your symbol corresponds to this card. So you're the one that had the plant symbol. And for this card, we are going to be reading directly from the book just for this card. The rest we won't, just because I really love the descriptors of this deck. So this card is really going to resemble kind of your current situation, what's going on, and then we're going to dive deeper. So Wilderness. The wilderness is where you can expect the unexpected. It is also where a slight miscalculation can mean your life. It offers many lessons. One of the most, and let's just back that up. It also has it's also where a slight miscalculation can mean your life. I personally don't use tarot to depict life and death and things like that, except for symbolically, rebirthing into something. So this message is not about you actually dying. Please just keep that in mind, that I don't read that way, so I don't channel that way either. So this could mean your life as it currently is. It offers many lessons, one of the most important being precision. Do you look for food or do you build a shelter? What do you carry with you and what do you leave? What leaves you vulnerable and what fortifies you? The space you are in is requiring this level of calculation. It may not be your life on the line, though it is a period of choice. There are many paths, but to stay on the one you want, you must think everything through carefully. It is both intuition and logic, but not a place of emotion. You must make hard decisions and allow things to be stripped away from you, trusting that it all has a purpose. There is a feeling of aloneness here, even if you have plenty of support. Some journeys must be traveled alone. Here, you can take total ownership over each choice you make, not looking outward for rescue, but truly knowing that you will rise to the occasion. It is likely an uncomfortable place. There is no fire escape, but it is a place where you will get stronger. When you leave the wilderness, and you will leave, you will not be the same. Ooh, I just got the chills. Pile number one gave me the chills too. Okay, so the wilderness literally is about like symbolically being in the wild and having to make very clear, dedicated decisions. So maybe it feels like you have a lot on your plate right now and you feel like you are struggling. And the next two cards I have are really more about what to do with this like what to do knowing where you are. So we have the 7 of Swords, which the 7 of Swords to me is literally the card of self-sabotage and also being careful of and like being mindful of deception. So we have that. And then we also have the 9 of Swords, which this to me, I'm just going to call it what it is. The 9 of Swords to me is literally the anxiety card. It's worrying too much about everything. It's over analyzing, over studying, and making yourself literally sick. So I feel like these are more indications of what not to do right now, not what to do. Because sitting and analyzing, though it can be valuable, if it's making you literally emotionally or physically ill, which to me is really what the 9 of Swords does, this is an indication that you need to be trusting your intuition more and not letting your analytical mind keep leading, because what's happening is you're getting stuck on this cycle of, I don't believe in myself. I don't believe this situation can change. It's getting stuck on how the way the world traditionally works instead of being open to miracles and things happening differently. A great example of this, and don't get me wrong, I think that sometimes there is like a difference between magical thinking and make-believe thinking, and sitting and telling yourself something that you don't internally believe is you're going to have a much harder time getting it to work for you. But I do feel like in my own life, a perfect example of this is telling myself like, I can't afford to buy a house. The housing market is crazy right now. And I don't really love the current situation I'm in. But the difference is swapping that into, maybe tomorrow I'm going to end up a multimillionaire and I'm going to be able to pay cash for my home. Like, you have no idea. You have no idea how the universe could bless you today, tomorrow, the next day, and how your situation can change dramatically. This is why I also have a really hard time when myself or I hear others talk about situations in their lives and say that it's going to take like X amount of years for blank to happen. You literally have no idea. Something could change tomorrow that is beyond what you could have conceived. And that's because we get stuck in this way of analyzing everything and saying it can only happen in one way. And you block yourself off from being open to more possibility when you do that. And I understand this is easier said than done, because if we're used to thinking on thought spirals that do this, it's going to be harder to step out of them. But all it takes is one choice to say, actually, that is just a thought. I don't have to engage with it. And even if you keep having to tell yourself that every 5 minutes until your mind stops, that could take days, weeks of, hey, we don't need to go there. Eventually, your brain is going to realize it's not serving you and you'll start to create new neural pathways. And then The Seven of Swords tells me that this to me is the card of deception or self-sabotage. So don't do this to yourself. You literally just got told that right now, this could be a very emotional situation that is emotionally charged. You don't have time to let your emotions overboard you. And normally I am the kind of person that's like, no, always tap into the emotion, tap into the waters of self. In this instance, I feel like you might need a little bit more of mysticism and logic, and the emotional side is actually keeping you in this place of self-sabotage. It's keeping you stuck in the cycle. This isn't to demonize your emotions because they're important and we need them, but it is more about basically like getting yourself in check and being like, yo, here's the list. Or something that Spirit is also telling me to recommend to you is make lists of what needs to happen to make changes from where you are right now, and write out what's going on. Like, it doesn't mean you have to keep a journal. You can literally put this in your phone, wherever you feel comfortable putting the information. Just write out what's buzzing in your brain right now, because I get the sense that a lot is going on mentally and you're feeling very highly stimulated. And this can be overdone to the point of self-deception if you're not careful, especially when I see these two cards together. Now, please remember, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a mental health professional. I am not qualified to give therapy. So please do not use my readings like that. But what I will say is, writing out what's going on in your mind, it at least gives, I know it sounds like something that will not work. I promise you, it does provide relief, because it takes that buzzing in your head and it gets it out. And even if you still have things that you have to deal with, you're going to have a much clearer picture having written it out, versus sitting and letting it just circle. Like, basically you just circle the same thoughts. So that is like the advice on how to move forward. Now, the last three cards are more of a gentle message of how to kind of move through this or move with this, or just anything that Spirit really wants to give us. We're going to be using one of my favorite decks of all time, which is the Rose Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. Links below, of course. And your cards are all so like, one of these cards makes me want to cry because it has special significance to me, and I'll talk to you about it when I show it to you. So we have held, sureness of soil, unseen help, support, and community. So this is like, number one, you have more support than you realize. Even if you don't have a significant other right now, or friends that you feel like are, or family members, there are people. You could literally be 10, like if you live in an apartment complex, your next door neighbor could be somebody. Like, you never know how close in proximity you are to your soul family, to people that want to hold you. And on top of that, literally it says unseen help. This can also come in the form of ancestors, spirit guides, spiritual team, and even just reaching out and being like, yo, I can't deal with this shit by myself. Can you help me? Or lead me to the people that are going to support me through this because I'm having a hard time. That is sometimes all you need to ask, and you will meet someone that day. I encourage you, not because I think people are meant to fix our problems or anything. I encourage you, if you don't feel like you have community of any kind, come to my Discord. It's free. The link is down below. It's literally just our community from YouTube, from the podcast, from Patreon. It's literally just our community. We even have an emotional venting space where you're allowed to just talk, and some people may not respond, but sometimes I find more often than not, other community members that are going through similar things kind of meet up together and talk. And it's a good space for that. So, if you don't feel like you have community, I want you to know that you have a community within my home, and my home being this corner of the internet. And like, please join the Discord if you don't feel like you have community. Spirit is telling me to tell you that. Please know that you have community here. If you're here, I believe that you're part of this community, even if this is your first time ever on my channel. Like I said, it's free, and the link is down below. Look for the Discord link. And it's available on mobile, desktop, whatever you want to use it for. And then we also have the Holy Grail, which says, stop the endless searching inner quest. I'm actually going to read that one last because I feel like that's like the final message. And we're going to look at this card first, which this is the one that I was like, oh, it makes me want to cry. Healing is happening. You're not broken. Trust the process. It's safe to soften. This card I have a special connection with because during the height of like my own mental health spiral, I would read for myself from this deck a lot because this deck really comforted me during that time. And I I would ask this deck constantly, like, what am I missing? What's not happening? Why do I still feel this way? And this was the card that popped out for weeks. I would shuffle the deck and the same card would pop out. And it was this one. Healing is happening. You're not broken. Trust the process. It's safe to soften. And this can be a really hard message to hear. Sorry. This can be a really hard message to hear if you're not, if you feel like you have to do it all the time. You feel like you have to be the one working or creating new streams of revenue or paying the bills or caring for the kids or being the supportive spouse or family member. If you feel like you have to fill every single role all the time, and if you even let one thing slip, it's all going to come falling apart. This can be a really hard message to believe in. It's safe to soften, because oftentimes we are so rigid and set in our ways and thinking our same thoughts, doing the same patterns, the same motions, because we feel like we have to or our survival depends on it. And Spirit is literally telling you that you've wandered through the wilderness for a long time. And it's okay to let yourself be held. It's okay to look for support. It doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg to find it. It's okay to let people see these parts of you that you don't always let out that are hard, right? It's okay. You are safe. And the more you allow this process to happen for you, the easier and easier it becomes to navigate. And it takes time. It's not, I'm going to think about healing and I'm going to be better in 24 hours. Like, I'm not saying your experience is going to be exactly like mine, but it took me over a year just to process what I went through with my own mental health crisis. Over a year to finally get to the space where literally, I think for the first time yesterday, I actually felt fully present in my body and felt like I could relax. For the first time since June of 2021, I felt the feelings of full relaxation, and I was actually able to go to bed in like a relaxed state. And so I'm not saying it's going to take that long for you with whatever you're dealing with, but please know your spiritual team sent you here to know that your healing is happening. This is part of the process, and you are on the right track with this. You're not failing. And the Holy Grail, stop the endless searching inner quest. This is about, you have to stop looking for the next book, the next course that's going to save you, the next, you keep looking for everything outside of yourself to help you out of this wilderness state. And Spirit is saying you need to stop looking, not because not because tools are a bad thing. Tools are a great resource when you have them and you can do them. But the thing is, nobody is going to have the Holy Grail except yourself. You are the person that is going to, gosh, this comes back to like nobody's coming to save you. You are the person that has to save yourself. And that is going to take a lot of deep self-trust and inner work. And if you don't currently trust yourself, that is where you have to start, is by trusting that you already have the answers. And it starts small. It starts small. It's never going to be a big grandiose thing. Eventually, it is the big grandiose gestures, the big things that happen. But in the beginning, when you're learning self-trust, it's literally dedicating yourself to one practice, dedicating yourself to pulling one card for yourself a day and trusting that guidance, or dedicating yourself to a minute of meditation, not an hour. And those are just examples, but using the tools that you already have? How many books go unread on your shelf that you thought would help you? How many courses have you purchased that you haven't finished? Spirit is literally saying, stop trying to pick up more things to help you and start utilizing the tools that you have, because all of the answers are in front of you now. And I'm sorry if this has been a hard message. Like, y'all have got me in my feelings with this one. But I want you to remember that just as this card says right here in the middle, you will leave the wilderness. You will not be like, the forest can be fucking scary if you don't feel like you have all the tools, the resources to make it out, metaphorically speaking. It can be very scary to be away from everything and everyone that keeps you grounded and safe. But you will leave the wilderness. That is like the promise of this card, is you will leave. You will find that community. You will find the healing. And you're already well on your way. This is part of it. And I know it's hard. I know it sucks. My deepest empathy is with you. There is a difference between sympathy and empathy, and my deepest empathy is with you. And please just know that you're not by yourself. You're not by yourself. And I really do believe, if you were led here to hear this reading, that like you needed to see it and to know that you're not alone and that you're on the right track. And maybe this is like the relief that you needed to hear because you've been feeling very lost. And that makes my heart very sad. But genuinely, this might be so corny, but I need to say it. Please know, if you chose this pile, like specifically, I love you so much. And it's not that I don't try to love everybody that I come in contact with, but I feel very like connected to this reading, and having gone through my own wilderness and come out the other side, I know how hard and dangerous and scary, and especially to fall apart at like your own mind to like fail you. Just please know that you have my deepest empathy, and that you are so unbelievably loved by me. Like, if nobody else has told you that today, please know that Kloee Taylor loves you genuinely. Even though we don't know each other, my soul knows your soul, and that's all that we need that's all we need. Genuinely, I have love for you. And that is what I have for you, pile number 2. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do not forget, when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. Don't forget to check out the Discord, my Patreon, the podcast. I'm at Kloee Taylor all over the web. If you want to book a private reading, I am available at KhloeTaylor.com. You can book birth charts, private readings. Just check out the description box. All the good things are down there. And I would love for you to be even more a part of our community. So thank you. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye, pumpkin. All right, pile number 3. We're going to be starting with a card from the Empyrean deck by Threads of Fate. And I'm actually going to be reading this one out of the book just to kind of give us a glimpse of your current situation. And then we're going to expand on that reading with a few cards of what to do about that current situation, and then some gentle messages from Spirit at the end. And let's go ahead and first take a look at this. So you got the Channel card. Let me actually bring it in. Try to see if we can get it to focus at all. It's kind of hard to see. This is a darker card, but they do also change. I love these cards for that. They just look so cool. So we're going to go ahead and see what that is about. I do think it's interesting that let me fix this focus because she is being a messy. Camera's having a hard time picking up on it, but I think it's interesting that every pile today, whatever symbol was chosen for you, because the symbols I actually chose first, you have the key. And I'm not entirely sure what this card is about. I don't see it that often, but I do feel like just like talking about being like an energy channel can be about like unlocking that power within yourself. So just interesting that those would correspond. We love a good synchronicity, but let's go ahead and I'm just going to read this directly from the book, and then again, we'll expand with some more cards. So Channel. Woven into the unseen are the energetic channels pulsing all around us. They roll like waves, each one a chamber to a new reality. It's up to us to decide which door we want to open. Literally a key that opens a door. Are you kidding? Sometimes you may feel that the doors you want are too far away, but you can try the nearest one. When we shift our state of being by 1 degree, moment to moment or day to day, we are inching closer to the reality we want to live in. Start exactly where you are. Take an honest inventory of what channel you are on. Are you entrenched in fear? Are you skeptical? Are you feeling open? Channel is not just an invitation, but a demand. It demands that you see your power. You are entirely capable, oh, I got the chills, of getting to where you want to be. Start exactly where you are, then shift the channel, little by little. Let yourself stretch out. Find the edges of your comfort zone, the place where you meet some resistance and feel yourself doubting. If you're stuck in fear, maybe saying I am safe feels jarring, but I am open to feeling safe is both a challenge and a balm. This is not a momentary band-aid. This is a practice, one we must commit to continuously. Try to find enjoyment in catching yourself when you slip back to the old dead channels. You may have to filter out people, places, and things that hold your old energy. Do not fear this transformation. Call upon the element of fire to aid you as you burn away what doesn't serve to make space for the new. Continue to unashamedly reach for the channels that you have yet to unlock, but will offer new, more joyful experiences. So, what this is really saying to me with your current situation is you're tuned into the frequency of something that you don't really like experiencing. So whether this is lack, fear, scarcity, you're tuned into a frequency that you would like to not be experiencing. And that's okay. It's normal. It's normal. We all do this. I do this myself. Like, it's so normal to be tuned into something we don't really like seeing, hearing, or having. But the thing is, I feel like pile number 2, we talked about this a little bit. So those piles might be linked if you were thinking about picking both. But pile number 2 talked specifically about how no one is coming to save you. You have to be the person that does the thing to save yourself. However, this reading to me is more about not just being the person that saves yourself, but dedicating yourself to changing the frequency that you're on. And that doesn't mean that you're going to literally change overnight. You might be somebody that often you do an all or nothing mentality where it's like, oh, if I can't do these 20 things to change my life consistently for the next X amount of days, that means I failed. And so why did I even start? It's literally about picking one thing and deciding to shift your state of being with that one thing. I gave the example today at one point. I don't remember whose reading I talked about it in. Actually, maybe I didn't talk about it, but something that I find myself in resistance to a lot is getting into my body, whatever that means for me. If it's meditation, if it's getting a massage, if it's dancing or going outside and hiking or something that for me puts me in my body. I'm always really in resistance to those things. And I don't know why necessarily it comes up, because I want to be in my body. I don't want to be all up in the mind all the time, but I'm in such resistance to dropping down. I have such fear of dropping in. And I've had to learn over the course of, what is it now? About 14 months, I've had to learn how to question that resistance, how to be like, hey, you know what? This is really where I would like to go. This is where I currently am. What's one small step I can take to get in that direction? And something that I've recently started myself, this might inspire you, so I'm going to share it with you, is I mentioned multiple times on my channel, on my podcast, on my Patreon. Y'all have heard me talk about it. I struggle with sleep. Not insomnia. I genuinely think my circadian rhythm is just off. And I also struggle with being a lighter sleeper. I don't always sleep super heavy the way I would like to, because I have a lot of anxiety about the darkness and nighttime. I'm I know this sounds silly because I'm 31 years old and I'm scared to sleep in the dark sometimes, but I also sleep better when it is dark. So Something I recently started doing though is dedicating myself to an evening routine that I'm in such resistance to. Normally, I will work until the last minute. I'll procrastinate getting into that nighttime routine, mostly because I know sleep is coming and I have this like fear that I'm working through. It's come up for a lot of reasons. If you watch my mental health video, I feel like it makes more sense. But no need to like go and watch it right now if you haven't. But basically what I've discovered is doing even just a couple of intentional practices in my evening, whether it's steaming my face because like that's something that really relaxes me, or reading a book instead of watching TV, or doing red light therapy, or doing a meditation in bed, or putting on lavender essential oil, whatever it is that's going to start to get me to be present. I used to have such a resistance to. And I do somewhat still to a degree, but I choose in the evening to do at least 2 to 3 of those things. And even if I'm in resistance in the moments, I notice, especially the facial steaming, I wish that that was like okay to do every night. It's not. It's not good for your skin to do it every night. Otherwise, I totally would. It's something that really gets me into relaxation mode. And even though I'm still to this day in resistance to it, doing those few simple tasks for myself and I'll procrastinate them, it does shift my frequency. And so it can be that simple. It can be the difference between spending 3 minutes outside in the morning versus jumping straight into work and just deciding to go about your day instead of taking time for yourself. It's like whatever you're in strong resistance to, Spirit is saying that you have the ability to shift your frequency for the better if you're experiencing something you don't want to experience. But it's going to come over time, effort, and dedication. And it doesn't mean that you have to go and commit yourself to 100 things. It can literally be committing to one small thing at a time. Or in my case, I did like 2 or 3 small things, but even just one, even just picking one thing and sticking with it would be enough. But let's go ahead and keep looking here. So we also have on what to do about it. We have the universe for you. And actually, I want to bring these cards down just the way that I'm laying them out today. I just want them moved around a bit. So we have the universe and we have the Hierophant. And oh my gosh, the Hierophant here screaming at us though. So first of all, the universe is here to tell you that number one, you're being divinely supported. The universe is here to support you in your efforts. Number two, you can make changes at any point in time that you want to. I want you to notice how this creator here has the moon in her hands, or maybe even we could say that it's the world, has this spherical thing in her hands. And maybe it's her inner light. Maybe it's what she wants to do with it. I feel like ultimately this is about having the powers of the universe available to you to help you through this experience, to help you to help you to help you Sorry, I got like a interesting like tingling sensation. Kind of right, or it like interrupted me, so I feel like I should call attention to it because maybe you felt something there too. I got like a sensation, nothing bad, it didn't hurt. Just like a little bit of a sensation on my right hand side. Kind of like, I almost want to say it was like in my boob. Sorry, but like kind of in that area. It's already gone, but like it was almost like a I almost wonder if you're being called to like the heart or solar plexus chakras, because those chakras are kind of in that similar region, especially the heart. Like maybe you're being asked to really connect more into the desires of your hearts. And ask yourself what it is that you really want to do. If you had all the time in the world to commit to yourself, not commit to a project, not commit to work or a career or your children, what would you do if you were committing to yourself? And then commit to adding that into your life on a weekly, daily, monthly basis. And the Hierophant is here. I feel like the Hierophant is really here to just like slap you in the face a little bit, to be honest. The Hierophant is loud. And this card is about not falling into tradition, not falling into your old patterns and ways of doing and thinking about things. And possibly even seeking a mentor if you feel like that's something you would like to do, seeking mentorship. But this to me really is just about not allowing yourself to go down the path that has been carved out before you. Like maybe you have a parent or a guardian that never prioritizes themselves and they taught you to do the same thing, to not prioritize yourself. Or there's potential that maybe you have like a workaholic parent or guardian or somebody in your life that does that, and it's made you feel like you have to do that. Or, maybe you have somebody now even telling you those things that wants you to walk a very traditional path, but you're not supposed to do that. You're not here to walk a traditional path. And Spirit is saying, like, tradition, you don't have to follow the path that was before you, that tradition isn't always the answer. And we also, oh my gosh, every time, y'all are going to get so mad. Y'all are going to get so mad. I feel like every time I mention leadership in these readings, it's always the person that doesn't like to be called a leader and they get so tilted. And I swear y'all just keep picking the leadership piles because it's legitimate. And if you've picked a pile in the past where this has happened, you already know. But the next few cards I have are just like gentler messages. But we did get the Anointed, which says answer the call, leadership, empowerment, and soul gifts. So this might be something that you're even looking for, like you're trying to understand yourself in new ways or get clear on your soul's mission, your soul's purpose, get clear on how you would like to feel empowered and answering that call within yourself to go there. However, if you feel completely disempowered and like you cannot lead, this could be a really hard call to hear. Spirit is literally telling you that you were born and made for this, though. You were born and made for this. You were not supposed to follow the traditional path. You are here to empower yourself and to empower others. And you have natural gifts and talents that will support you in this. Even if you haven't discovered them yet, they are there. And we also have for you the Rose of Venus, alignment, flow, right relationship, and harmony. So you're also not meant to do this alone. Spirit is saying, like, as you kind of move into this new way of being, as you make these new choices, you're going to find the right relationships that are going to support you in doing it. And that it could be romantic if you are looking for that. It could be a partner that you link up with if you're looking for partnership, but it could also be the right relationships that just nurture and support you into being this version of yourself that you really desire to be. Maybe you feel really like your soul family is lacking. And I would encourage you, I have a video that went out this month on soul families. It was a collaboration with Kino. We both put out 2 different parts that talked about soul families. So definitely go and check those readings out if you're curious about your soul family. But basically, there are people that want to support you, and Spirit is saying you can meet those people, but you have to start making changes and stop just thinking about the changes you want to make, actually putting them into action. And then we have the Breathing Rose, heart healing. Oh my gosh, literally I stopped and I was like, oh, I wonder if that's like heart chakra. And then we get the heart healing card. Heart healing, emotions, connection, and time eases. So with the Breathing Rose, heart healing, I actually want to read the book on this one because I don't know that we've seen this card too many times and I'm not as familiar with it. So we are going to read from the book. This is just the book that came with the deck. It says, Often healing is a slow and steady process. It's complex, not linear. It takes as long as it takes, and most of the time, that's much longer than we'd wish. But like all things in nature, there's a mysterious intelligence to it, and if we trust it and let the vibrant petals fall to the earth, cut back what's no longer, and protect the new shoots and buds from being pried open, we may find ourselves in a second bloom and fruit will follow. You can't manufacture that. We must trust the great mystery in the process. The bud somehow manages to burst through the constraints by opening to life. All of nature has this intelligence within it. The challenge when we're going through a time of healing, which is another word for growth, transformation, and change, is not to choose ourselves is not to close ourselves off from the world when we most want to separate and shut down. To somehow find the courage to open through the agony, the difficulty, and the hurt. And when we feel safe enough to let life soften us, not harden us, to deepen and cradle us. This is a card of deep heart healing. It will often come to us as a symbol of emotional healing that's in the process of happening. The mending is underway. Treat yourself and your healing with compassion, understanding, and gentleness. This is a card of deep encouragement that you're doing it. Time will ease everything soon. So you are doing it. Spirit also wants to remind you of that like you are currently in the process. I really do feel like this reading and pile number 2 have a heavy link, but you are in the process. It is happening right now. And the things that you came here to hear, I feel like you already knew. Like, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. And it's resonating as deeply as it's resonating because your soul already knew. You already knew. You already had the inclination. You already had the synchronicity within you. And that's why it's hitting so deep. But Spirit just wants you to know that, like, as you work towards this, as you shift your frequency, as you heal more, as you work on the deep integrative work, as you decide to carve out this new pathway for yourself, the right people, the right places, the right situations, all of it is going to come together for you. And Spirit just wants you to walk like you already know, because you do. So if you've been feeling really down and out about it, that's okay. But know that change is coming. Know that you are a leader in your own right, and you will feel the sense of empowerment again soon. And that is what I have for you, pile number 3. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do not forget, when you stand on your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. So don't forget to check out all of my links down below. I have my Patreon available to you, where you get exclusive readings, access to over 235 posts, videos, etc. that we have been building from last May until now. So when you join the Patreon, you get access to everything, including content that continues to be made on a weekly basis. Don't forget, if you would like to book a reading with me, you can only do so at KhloeTaylor.com. I will never solicit you for a reading privately. You have to come to me for those things. So if you ever see that on social media, it is a scam and it's not me. I am at Kloee Taylor everywhere online. I do not have a secondary account, a backup. It is literally just Kloee Taylor, is spelled exactly like it is here. No underscores, no spaces, no extra letters. Those scammers are getting smart, though. They know how to make the accounts look like they're mine. A lot of tarot card readers, this actually happens to, unfortunately. But is there anything else? Oh, and don't forget to check out the Discord and the podcast. On Discord, we have a community that's completely free for you to come and join, where we just chat. It's a good time. The podcast, Divine Authenticity, new episodes every single week. And there's like a whole back slew of episodes that we've had as well. If you want more of me around the web. And that is what I have for you, Pumpkin. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you so much. And I don't know if I already said it, so I'm going to say it again. Please do not forget, when you stand on your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. And I'll talk to you again next time. Bye.